Thank y'all so much for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started. The food was served very efficiently tonight, and so we're going to go ahead and knock off a little extra 10 minutes and see how early we can get you out tonight. I'll start with, I'm Chelsea Nice. I am currently the president of our Kiwanis Club here in Lebanon, and we are honored to have you join us tonight. Thank you so much for coming. We know there are many events, many places that you could be, and thank you so much for being present tonight as we honor Sammy Hatcher and hopefully have some fun along the way. So we're going to begin tonight similarly to how we begin our meetings on Mondays. If you would please, we will enter in the color guard from the Lebanon High School Air Force Junior ROTC. We'll present the colors, and then we'll have Ryan Woodall lead our prayer tonight, Ryan Woodall lead our pledge tonight. T.O. Cragwall will lead just the first verse of America the Beautiful. The lyrics are in your program, so we're only singing the first one. And then Eddie Callis will be leading our prayer. And at that time, we'll dismiss the colors, let our members up here sit down, and then if you could please remain standing, we will recite the Kiwanis defining statement, and then we'll sit and continue with our program, okay? So, if you would please stand, we will, at this time, present the colors.
Here we go. Forward. Hard. Go yard. Out. Left. Out. Breathing. Go.
Everyone please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll sing the first verse of America the Beautiful. And let's sing it with gusto as if we love this country. Shall we sing? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber ways of green, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood from a sea to shining sea.
Will you bow, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings you give us today and every day. We thank you especially for this day. We thank you for all the blessings you've given us. We thank you for this community and for the opportunity to work in this community to provide help for those with needs, especially the children in our community. We thank you for the food provided for us tonight and pray that it will give us strength and continue to look for ways to serve others here in the community. We thank you for Sam Hatcher and his family and for their willingness to participate in this evening's program. We pray that you will continue to bless them. And Father, when we fail you, we ask for your forgiveness. We pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Retreat. Go. Right. Right. Forward. Hard.
And if you would please, in the middle of your program, there is the Kiwanis defining statement, and recite it with me. Kiwanis is an organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. Thank you. Now you may be seated. All right. So typically, in our meetings on Mondays, we introduce our guests and go around the room. In interest of time, we will not be doing that tonight, but I will ask for any of our elected officials in the room, if you could please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And also, if we have any veterans or active military in the room, if you could please stand. Thank you all for your service and everything you do for our community. So you may be here, you may be familiar with Kiwanis, you may have been tapped on a shoulder, you may have been said, hey, we have a seat that we need to fill, and have no idea who we are. So what is Kiwanis? As we noted in our defining statement, we are a global organization and we are volunteers. So this is on top of what our day jobs are, but we're dedicated to improving the world one child and one community at a time. So a lot of what our Kiwanis Club of Lebanon does is support the children in the city of Lebanon. So in our program, we listed out a couple organizations that the funds that we raise, we do support with those dollars. I would like to shout out to the Lebanon Youth Baseball and Softball. We have been sponsoring that organization now for 4 decades, and that's we have our roots in our baseball here in Lebanon, and it's been a great ad for softball this year. The Wilson County Library, Wilson County Schools, we also volunteer in some of these places like Christmas for All whenever we have our Fifth Monday service projects. And so on the Fifth Mondays, there's 3 or 4 of those each year, we dedicate our Monday meeting to go and serve and do a project. And we've done different projects to support different areas of our community. So if any of those things interest you as president, I am obligated to invite you. You're welcome any Monday, except for bank holidays, but we meet at First United Methodist Church here in Lebanon in Hessen Hall. We meet from noon to 1 and we get out by 1. We will always have food ready at noon. Houston's, who catered tonight, is our primary food provider. So we invite you. You're welcome to join unannounced anytime. We always have a great speaker lined up. And if you have any other questions, we've got a table in the lobby with a brochure and some other information like our website available as well. So, the last thing that I got to make sure to say out loud, this is a fundraiser. So on your tables, you'll see there are watercolors done by Sam Hatcher himself that are framed and available. There is a suggested donation of $75 for each. And there's a little tag on there that has, there's envelopes that you can put a check in or cash for however you want to donate those funds, or we take IOUs. Just leave us your phone number and we'll find you. So I have to make sure to say that out loud, but thank you guys so much for coming tonight. It's a great crowd. Glad to see your faces. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to our MC for the night, John Bryan. So John Bryan is now our 3rd time running Celebrity Roast MC. We thank you for that. He has been a member of our Kiwanis Club for just over 40 years. And he has served in all of our offices here in the local club. And most notably, he was also Lieutenant Governor of the Kentucky-Tennessee District of Kiwanis as well. So thank you, John. Welcome on up.
Thank you, Chelsea, and thank you to the Ryan Woodall, Melinda Bounds, the committee of 2, with a lot of help for putting this thing together this year, and they took the torch and did a great job. Let's hear it for those 2. We're not here unless we have sponsors, and the sponsors are noted on your table. Table sponsors, patrons of Kiwanis, but mainly Middle Tennessee Electric is our headline sponsor. Chris Jones, the president and CEO of Middle Tennessee Electric, is with us tonight. Chris, stand up. Let everybody see you there. If your power goes off, he's not the problem. So, thank you, Chris. Also, big shout out to First Freedom Bank, our catering sponsor tonight. They paid for the food tonight, so let's hear it for them. Cedarstone Bank for sponsoring our sound and video services. Let's hear it for them. You know, this is the third annual Kiwanis Celebrity Roast, and I don't know, and I've been involved with the roast, and Sam and I have been roasters several times. I mean, we did the late great Frank Dudley back at Cumberland University, Larry Locke, and you know, it's always the honorees' responsibility to get the roasters. You know, we roasted Paul just 2 years ago as the first one we roasted, but this year it was crazy. We had people calling us, "Hey, can I roast Hatcher?" And we had to turn down, 24, 38 calls or something like that. So, or Hatcher, you know, perhaps there was 100, you know, but we have a great show lined up for you tonight. Our first roaster is not a stranger to anyone here. He was our first roaster, first roastee 2 years ago, and we're all going to take shots at Sam tonight and have an opportunity to editorialize Mr. Hatcher, John S. Hatcher Jr., Sam to some, Sammy to others, Daddy Sam to those that he's most close to. So Dr. Paul Stum, the president of Cumberland University, the pulpit is yours.
Thank you, John. It's a privilege to be here tonight. It's really not only a privilege, but also, I have to admit, a little bit of a challenge for me for two reasons. One, because there's truthfully, as John suggested, so much information that I could use to roast Sam Hatcher. It's difficult to boil that down into a brief 55 minutes, which is, that's what I have, right?
Something like that.
But the other reason it's a challenge for me is because Sam is one of my 33 bosses at the university, and in fact, this year, the chairman of our board, and so really the top boss that I have to answer to. So I have to be a little bit careful, but I know it's for a good cause, and clearly, as evidenced by the crowd tonight, J. Samuel Hatcher has certainly drawn a large crowd tonight. Plus, as John also indicated, he roasted me in this very room approximately 2 years ago, so I owe him now. I think it's only appropriate that I get to reciprocate, and after all, as they say, turnabout is fair play, right? So let's talk about fair play for a minute. Have any of you, by show of hands, ever played golf with Sam Hatcher? A few of you, yes. I see some hands going up. I had the privilege of playing in a scramble with Sam Hatcher recently, and I want you to know my back was tired. I had to carry him the whole round of golf. I want to begin by telling you a story about Sam Hatcher on the golf course. But before we do, let's talk about his name. John mentioned a few of the names he goes by. I was introduced to him as Sam originally, but a lot of people call him Sammy. A lot of people call him Sammy Boy. Millard Oakley like to call him Samuel, and I like that name, Samuel. That's a great name for Sammy Hatcher. I'm told that back in the CB radio days, how many of you had CB radios in your car? The older, yeah, a bunch of old people here, Samuel. Not as old as you, but they're old. So back in the CB radio days, some of you may have known him back then, he was Cedar City Sammy. Cedar City Sammy on the CB radio. Cedar City Sammy wanted to know, what's it looking like back over your donkey? But I'm just going to call him Sammy for the purposes of my brief remarks tonight. So one day, Sammy was out playing golf with his good friend Steve Flatt, Dr. Steve Flatt, former president at Lipscomb University down the road, and they were playing on a really nice course, and they played for 2 consecutive days, 18 holes each day, And this particular course, you had caddies on. They had caddies, and they used the same caddies for 2 days in a row, and they got to really know and help them with their games. And at the end of the second day, they were coming back into the clubhouse, and both of them were getting ready to tip their caddies for 2 great days of golf. And Sammy and Steve Flatt looked at their caddies and said, you know, you've worked with us for the last 2 days, and we're just curious. Steve Flatt asked first, he said, do you have any advice for me? You know, having seen and worked with me now for 2 days, do you have any advice that you could share with me? And Dr. Flatt's caddy looked at him and said, yes, sir. He said, Dr. Flatt, he said, listen, I want you to know, you've got a solid game. If you could just work on your short game a little bit, I think you could take several strokes off your score. Dr. Flatt thanked him and tipped him, and then Samuel said to his caddy, looked at his caddy and said, and what advice do you have for me? And the caddy looked at him and he said, Mr. Hatcher, he said, I really think that the best advice for you is to lay off the game for about 2 weeks and then give it up altogether. Now, I want you to know that Sammy is a newspaper guy at heart. Y'all know that. And in case, I'm not going to suggest that he would ever tell you a lie or do anything dishonest, but in case he later tries to tell you that story about the caddies was not true, or that I didn't actually carry him in that golf scramble, I want you to know, and many of you here have heard him say, as I have many times, he says, don't ever let the facts get in the way of a good story. By the way, you all know that Sammy's dad was in the clothing business. So Sam has always had a thing for nice clothes, and he generally looks pretty nice, especially when Teresa dresses him, as I'm sure she did tonight. But I'm so glad that he finally got rid of it. Y'all know that ugly sweatshirt that he used to wear with all the holes in it? He wore it all the time. I'm so glad you finally, you know that, Caitlin? You know, he still has it? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I thought he had finally gotten rid of that. I hadn't seen him in it in a while. But he's also a shoes guy. Sam is a shoes, kind of like a woman, you know. He's just he's always talking about shoes, and not just any shoes, but Sam has this thing for. He always says he has to wear extra wide shoes. You know that? You know he does. He talks about extra wide shoes. He says that if he doesn't wear extra wide shoes, that it makes his feet hurt, or it messes up his golf swing, or it makes him forget things like his sister-in-law's name. Or Sam once told me, he said to me once, he said, Paul, you know, the memory's the third thing to go, and I can't remember the first two. You all know that Sam and Teresa, or Titi, as her grandkids call her, really their whole family is a devoted family to the Church of Christ. And they've been Church of Christ members for a long time. And I want you to know, even though I'm a Methodist, I know and recognize the Church of Christ has many excellent churches right here in our community and really around the country. But one thing that I don't understand, I've never understood, Sammy has told me that members of the Church of Christ don't drink. But the thing that's confusing to me, I happen to know that some of Sammy and Teresa's friends, and you know, they entertain a lot in that beautiful home they have up on the top of the hill in Five Oaks. But I want you to know that I think some of his friends, maybe some of his Episcopalian and maybe Catholic friends, do like to take a drink every now and then. And so I personally have given Sam several bottles of Angel's Envy. But the thing I don't understand is that every time I've been at his house, he's always out. I think his non-COC friends must really like that Angel's Envy. Now, I do want you to know Sammy and TT recently moved churches, and that's not an altogether uncommon thing to do. I can't really remember why. I think it had something to do with they wanted to find a better foyer or something like that. But at their new church, Sammy recruited his golfing buddy, Dr. Flatt, to come and speak one time. Dr. Flatt is also a Church of Christ preacher. And I'm told that, and by the way, I'm certain Sammy's friend, Dr. Flatt, does not drink Angel's Envy. But he was invited to come and speak one Sunday. And so another good COC member and Kiwanian and elder in the church, John Bryan, had the privilege, I understand, of introducing Dr. Flatt that Sunday when he came to speak. Is that true, John?
I did, but I'm not an elder.
You're not an elder. Okay, I'm sorry. I misquoted you on that. You just look like an elder to me. You ought to be an elder. I would vote for you if I got a vote, but I don't.
Don't worry about that. You won't ever get in the church.
I'm certain that's true. Anyway, John Bryan was introducing Dr. Flatt. And when he introduced Dr. Flatt, John said, he said, "My good friend Sam Hatcher invited our guest speaker, Dr. Steve Flatt, today." And when Flatt got up to deliver the sermon, he started out his sermon by saying something along the lines of, he said, "It's a real privilege to be here today with you, but I must admit, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody call Sam Hatcher their good friend in public." Speaking of being out in public, have you ever noticed that any time there's a public event anywhere where there's free food, Sammy is always ready to sign up and he's the first in line to get his food? But if it's some kind of fundraiser or maybe an event where there's some speaker that Sammy's not particularly fond of, he always has a conflict. He always has a reason for not being there. Sam is so tight that his extra wide shoes squeak when he walks. In fact, I just learned this last weekend, we'll refer to it as his frugal nature, that frugal nature started when he was a young boy of about 8 years old. Sammy apparently injured his foot or his ankle or something when he was about 8 years old. Probably was wearing shoes that weren't wide enough. That was back in the 1920s, I guess, Sam, right? I asked Sam the picture that's up on him on this program tonight. I asked him, was that taken during Palm Sunday week about 40 years ago? Anyway, back in the 1920s when he injured his foot at about 8 years old, he went to see our good friend, the recently deceased Dr. Robert Carver Bone, and asked him to fix him up. Dr. Bone was, of course, at the ready to help out our friend Sammy. But when Sammy left Dr. Bone's office after getting stitched up, the receptionist handed him a small bill for his service, and Sammy said, oh no, there must be some kind of mistake. I never have to pay Dr. Bone. He always sees me for free. So even as an 8-year-old, he was tight. At any rate, when Sammy doesn't have a conflict, he and Teresa go to a lot of events. And many of those events, Christy and I also attend. And I want you to know, Teresa is always so kind, so thoughtful, so generous. I mean, she truthfully is the kind of guest that anyone would want to have in their home or anywhere else. She's always looking for ways to help the host or hostess. I saw her do it just last week. We were in an event together, and she was helping put out the food and clean up. Sammy, to contrast him, just so you know, he's the kind of guy, y'all remember Ray Romano? You ever seen the show Everyone Loves Raymond? There was one episode of Everyone Loves Raymond. It just reminded me so much of Sammy because he's the kind of guy that when the speaker's up at the podium or whatever the event is, Sammy's at the buffet in the back stuffing tenderloin in his pockets. And have you ever noticed how Sammy always hits you when he's talking to you to get your attention? You know what I'm talking about? He does this all the time. He does. Charles Bone knows this. Yeah. Recently, I happen to know that Sammy and Teresa were on their way to an event in Nashville. One of the few occasions, I guess, Sammy didn't have a conflict. But they were on I-40, where it comes in and it merges briefly onto 24 and goes up onto I-440. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, wait a minute.
He knows it's a true story. And the truth is, on this particular night, as Sam was merging onto I-440, Sammy got pulled over by the THP, blue lights in his rearview mirror. Tennessee Highway Patrolman pulled him over right there as he was merging on to 440. Well, Sammy, as some of you may know, when he's doing that merge, he likes to ride right on the bumper of the car in front of him for fear that somebody else is going to wedge in on that exit. He won't allow anybody to wedge in. He gets right on the bumper. He tailgates them. I think he's afraid that whoever might get in front of him is going to the same event that he's going to and will get to the tenderloin before him. But at any rate, the trooper comes up to the window and says, first thing he said to him was, Sam rolled down his window, and the trooper says, "Sir, I see you're not wearing your seatbelt." And Sammy said, "Officer," he said, I always wear my seatbelt. I figured you might want to see my license, so I took it off so I could get my wallet out of my pocket." Now, let me parenthetically say that I've been out with Sam Hatcher a lot of times, and I didn't even know he had a wallet. He said, but on this particular night, right when he said that he was getting out his wallet, Teresa somewhat gratuitously, chimed in. She said, you never wear your seatbelt. You didn't have it on tonight. So he slaps her on the shoulder. He says, shut up, TT, I've got this. So then the THP officer looked at Sammy and said, and sir, I noticed you were really tailgating that car right in front of you. You were right on his bumper. And Sam said, oh no, officer. He said, I never tailgate. He said, in fact, my car came from Wilson County Motors, and it is so sophisticated, it has a special device on it that keeps you from following too closely. And about that time, Teresa chimed in again, and she said, you were too tailgating. You always tailgate. So Sam slaps her again, a little bit harder this time. Says, shut up, Teresa, I've got this. So at that point, the officer, the highway patrolman, kind of leans in the window, and he says, ma'am, he says, does your husband always treat you this way? And she said, oh no, officer. She said, only when he's been drinking Angel's Envy. Sam once told me that Sam once told me that he married Teresa for her looks, which certainly all of us can understand, but I don't think it was the kind of looks he got that night. Let me close by saying, despite his squeaky, tight, extra wide shoes, despite the fact that he's so cheap that he only puts $20 at a time in his gas tank for fear that the price of gas may come down by 1 cent while he still has gas in the tank. I know it's true. Everything I've said is true. Despite the fact that he's always somehow out of Angel's Envy, and I'm even told that he and his brother-in-law Curry Dudley have conspired to refill empty Angel's Envy bottles with MD 2020 cut with water. I can truly say, and I'll even admit in public, that Sam is a dear friend. He's a talented artist. He's a great author. He's truly, actually, a pretty darn good golfer and a tennis player. He's fun to be around. He's what the kids at Cumberland would call have you all heard this expression? They talk about something called Riz. They call him the Rizzard of Oz. Jenny Bennett taught me this. Or the governor of Wisconsin. That's what they talk about. That's their euphemism for charisma. And I gotta say, in truth, Sam does have a lot of charisma. And in closing, I would say that if I had a glass of Angel's Envy, I would raise it right now and toast to my good friend, J. Samuel Hatcher.
Well, that's it. That's all we got. Thank you, Dr. Sum. Great job. Sam, it's true about the $20 per tank of gas. I've been with him, so I know that. Our next roaster is Charles Bone. I met Charles several years ago, and Hatcher calls him Bone, so he is the founder of Bone McAllister Norton. Now it's called Spencer Fane Bone McAllister. So Charles Bone, make your way to the podium and take aim. Charles Bone, ladies and gentlemen.
One thing, I'll be shorter than you were. So, it's a real honor to be here, not to be with Sam, but just to be here with so many of you all and to be in Lebanon. And they couldn't get a Bone from Wilson County to come up here and speak. So they brought me all the way in from Sumner County and Davidson County because they felt like they had to have a Bone on the program. So I hope I represent your family, and that's a little akin to my family over a long period of time to honor. And see, that's the problem I have. I didn't know this was to honor Sam Hatcher. So I have two speeches, and I didn't bring one of them. I'm saving it for his funeral. And I'm going to go ahead and pre-record it just in case, I'm not able to be there because I've got some nice things I want to say. And the girls and I were saying, do we have to say something nice? And I said, well, y'all can say something nice. I'm not going to use my time to say something nice. I wanted to know is his bookie in the audience? I've been hearing about this bookie for all these years, and you know, I know some of y'all don't raise your hand because I know y'all are with the same bookie, but so I guess he's not here. I guess the bookie is not here. So I've got so much. And obviously Paul had a lot, and I know the girls will. So,
And I've got some too, remember.
yeah, and so we can all leave when he stands up, and we won't worry about it. So, you know, so I have a real question about the painting. What kind of cut does he get?
20% off the top. 20% off.
20% off the top. See, you know, there's always a catch with Hatcher. And, you know, I know you all call him Sammy or all these different names. I just call him Hatcher. And that seems to work most of the time. And so I'm honored to be here to trash Hatcher. And I'm not about to honor him. I'm just going to trash him. So you know, I've got a lot of. So if any of y'all ever followed him around Publix, he goes to Publix every day to get food. So he goes and picks out his food every day, and then he decides how much of it he can eat, and then how much weight he can lose before the next morning. And you know, it's a real complex formula. And you know, and my wife has heard him say this. So she said, you know, he cannot lose 10 pounds overnight. And nobody can do that. And I said, well, Hatcher can. Yeah. I mean, he wouldn't lie. But have you ever heard him say, well, maybe this is a little white lie? That's one of his lines. Just maybe a little white lie. We'll work on that. So I don't know anything about his golf game, but I know they travel a lot. And, you know, there is no cheaper person to find a deal to go to all these exotic places, and then, of course, Teresa has to come along and buy the food. But if she wants to eat. But so I want to just dwell on one thing, because I could go on a long time, and I know all y'all know all these stories too. So I was trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to say this. So I talked to our friend John T. Bobo down in Shelbyville, and Hatcher was trying to talk him into buying a Porsche. And y'all know he drives this yellow Porsche. And so Bobo goes and says to some of his friends, you know, what do I want a Porsche? I want to know what a Porsche is, and I want to know what a Porsche looks like. And this guy at the breakfast table said, well, let me just tell you one thing. The difference in a Porsche and a porcupine is that the prick is on the inside of the Porsche. I brought that. Just for you. Just for you, so you'll remember this. So you know, lawyers always need a little, you know, demonstrative evidence to have, and so I've got just a little bit. So the next thing I did, I went to the zoo, and I said, so what animal does Hatcher remind me of? What could it be? And I said, Van, it's maybe a chameleon. Because when he's talking to you, he says one thing. When he's talking to me, he says another thing. And a chameleon, you know, is either blue or red. And sometimes Hatcher can change in the middle of the conversation. And so, right, John? So you know, you never know for sure whether your child is the favorite child or her child is the favorite child, or you know. There's a lot of people here I can name, you know, who've been down this road with Hatcher, not Sammy Joe. It's Hatcher. And so I brought him this to just remind him that a chameleon, you know, can change colors just at the drop of a hat. So I want you, this is just another gift for tonight. So I'm not going to say anything nice about him. I'm just going to sit down. I am really glad to be here with so many people that I know and appreciate here in Lebanon. And you know, he wants to be known, if you don't know this, as a Renaissance man, not a Renaissance man. And I am honoring the Renaissance man who paints, writes, plays golf, travels, does all these things on the cheapo. I mean, I assume everybody knows how cheap he is. Yeah. So I honor you as the Renaissance man of Lebanon. Thank you.
Charles Bone, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that was just wonderful. I'd like to mention the sponsors again, so as we all catch our breath. Middle Tennessee Electric, First Freedom Bank, Cedarstone Bank, Bone and Associates, City of Lebanon, Cedarstone Bank, I said that once already, Cumberland University, Congressman John Rose, Farm Bureau Insurance, West Dugan, Hearthside Senior Living, Ligon and Bobo Funeral Home, Pinnacle Bank, Shenandoah Mills, Surefire Fireworks, THW Insurance Services, LLC, WANT FM 98.9, WCOR AM 1490, Wilson Bank and Trust, Wilson County Sheriff Robert Bryan, Wilson County Automotive, Chevy Buick, GMC, and Hyundai, Friends of Qantas, Charles W. Bone, Ed and Brenda Callis, Jim Harding. Special thanks to Creative Graphics for the tickets and programs, Tick Bryan, Video and Sound, and Philip Lacey for our photography this evening. This is moving right along. Let's hear for our sponsors. This will be an all-time record, depending if the girls can bring it in 45 minutes.
I've got something to say.
Well, we're not going to let you talk. Our last presenters this evening will be tag teaming Sam. Kara and Kaylin will bring us completely different perspectives from growing up, adolescence, marriage ceremonies. I'm confident that this is the opportunity they've been waiting for all their lives. Let's hear it for the girls. Kara Sprouse, Kaylin Dennis.
Thanks, Ron. Well, this is our first roast, so we weren't sure how this goes, and we didn't know to bring a folder with visual aids, or I just have this, and we have a lifetime of memories. And I will never forget when Sam picked me up from the airport about a month and a half ago and said, hey, there's this roast and it's a fundraiser, and I think it's a great idea if you and your sister roast me. And I took a minute and I said, are you sure about that? And he said, that is funny. That is exactly what your sister said when I asked her. So we were on the same page from the get-go about that. And then from there on, our mom continued to remind us to be prepared and to not forget about tonight on the daily. And we did bring notes, not the visuals, but next time we'll know better. We'll have more visual aids.
No next time.
No next time. So it's interesting you say that we would bring a different perspective. We definitely have, I wouldn't say a different perspective because I think you saw us laugh a lot at some of the things you were saying ringing true, but I will say I think we may have some deeper perspective to some of the stories that were shared tonight. For instance, he does absolutely need an extra wide shoe.
Yes.
And if he does not, he will get a blister. And if he gets a blister on your family vacation at the beach,
Ruined.
it's ruined.
Yeah.
Imagine this, loafers can blister your feet if you wear them in the sand. No matter how wide. And your vacation will be ruined. We also have some insight to Sam and his Porsche, or as we are told to say,
Portia.
And we can, share some of our earliest childhood memories. Now, I'm more of the careful one, so this one's more Kaylin's, but she can share a little bit about what it was like to grow up with Sam driving his Porsche.
Yes. Well, Sam took on us at a very young age. Obviously, we were his children. And one of my earliest childhood memories of Sam was him putting me in the back of his tiny Porsche and showing me that if you go over, I believe it was 100 miles an hour, the spoiler would come out of the back. And as a small child, I thought that was fantastic. And now when he drives my children off, I'm like, oh dear God. So, I know what they're in for, but I always think about that. Anytime anyone even says the word Porsche, I wonder if those spoilers still, pop out when you go over 100 miles an hour with a child in the backseat. So one cute thing that now Daddy Sam, as the kids call him, one of their favorite activities to do with him is to go get donuts when they have sleepovers. So they ride in the race car and they go get donuts on Sunday morning. And, Kara's son was talking about they have call signs, when they're in the race car, and Kara's son is known as Little Caesar, I believe. And then he loves pizza.
Yeah.
And he said, and y'all know Daddy Sam's sign is like his military call sign. And we were like, we did not know that. What is it? And he said, it's Brownie Pencil. We don't know the story behind that, but we're going to challenge the room to figure that out before the end of the night, because I then asked my son, I said, just out of curiosity, do y'all have call signs when you ride in Daddy Sam's race car? And he said, I don't, but Daddy Sam is Brownie Pencil. So we have double validated that he has many a name, and to add to the list is Brownie Pencil. Something that Mr. Bone here pointed on was Sam's travel discounts.
Yeah.
And one thing that we are forever confused about is how on earth he goes on all these luxury vacations for no more than $25. Like, I don't think he will always call us, and it can be to Florida or Dubai, and he is somehow, I think they're paying him to go on these trips at this point. But Daddy Sam, my husband is also a veteran, but we have not unlocked the level of veteran discount that Sam has been able, so maybe someday with, some experience, but our travel experiences with Sam are a little different. I'll hand this one off to you.
Well, so we were very blessed to go on all of these amazing vacations courtesy of the very deep discount. And a lot of those trips were international, and we learned a lot of really valuable lessons, particularly from Sam, because I do think he was the one that was very passionate about us seeing all over the world, right, and having that international perspective and being savvy international travelers. And so at a very young age, he would teach us how if he bought Cuban cigars, they couldn't go in his suitcase, they should go in ours. At a very young age, when you watch your Hello Kitty suitcase go through the customs control and you see that green light, you're like, yes, yes, we got him home. We got him home. So we learned that at a very young age, and we're really proud for that international experience that he bestowed upon us.
A lot of trust in that.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of good skills. He also taught us to play blackjack on what, but it was at a place where 18 and up, and it rained the whole time, and it really was one of the worst vacations ever. And he said, you know what, girls, there's a hotel casino, sit down, I'm going to teach you how to play blackjack. So that's
a valuable lesson.
It was a valuable lesson. He has taught us a lot. Charles mentioned Publix. Again, some deeper insight to that. That is true. He does go to Publix every single day. He does buy his dinner for just that day. And you are correct. The way he loses 10 pounds a day is that he otherwise just drinks coffee. So the way that Sam keeps his girlish figure is he drinks about 50 pots of coffee from about 3:30 a.m. in the morning when he wakes up until about 3 p.m. when he goes to Publix to buy a feast of meat.
A lot of meat.
Where he will eat a separate dinner than what my mom cooks. Sometimes they run into each other there. Now they eat dinner together, they have a great marriage, but they're cooking them separately and they're shopping for them separately because Sam is there, and sometimes, like I said, they're surprised to run into one another.
Right.
He's got the discount, yeah, he's in the,
bin that you always talk
yeah,
about?
the bin.
It has like the penny bin, or maybe that's not really there, I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not real. Also, as Kaylin and I were talking about tonight and thinking about our fondest memories, we couldn't help but think about Christmas time in our house. And if any of you have ever been to our house at Christmas, you know that our mother takes great pride in putting up a very large Christmas tree that is from front gate and perfectly curated, and that there is not a single blank space on that tree. And every Christmas ornament is from a childhood memory or one of their many discount travel adventures. So they're irreplaceable. Well, one year, Sam said that he did not think it was, truly Christmas unless we went and chopped down our own tree on our farm. So Mom wanted to go along with it. We were game, right?
She did not.
Yeah, she was trying, and we kind of overruled her, honestly. So we did that a lot sometimes. She'd say we thought she was dorky Mom, and we would side with Sam. Yeah. But this is not TT's roast. That's another time. That being said, we go out on the tractor. This is back when we lived on property before they were at the golf course. And Sam said, "Now, girls, when we do this, we're going to sing a Christmas song." He said it goes, "Oh, Christmas tree, with your green lights all burning me." And I'm pretty sure that's not how that goes. But
I did think that for quite some time.
We were a little old when we found out that wasn't the real lyrics. But we chopped down said tree. And
looked a lot smaller in the field.
The sky is higher than our ceilings. And we bring the tree back and we go to put it in the door, and it goes a little bit of the way, and
very Clark Griswold. We
little
had a
Clark
real
Griswold.
life Clark Griswold moment. It literally won't fit. The width of it won't fit through the door.
So what does Sam do?
Gets a chainsaw.
Gets a chainsaw. And does he chainsaw the part that's outside? No, he chainsaws the part in our living room. Yeah. So we get it in the door, and it's still a little too tall, so Sam's like, "No problem, lay it back down again." Chainsaw. Mom's like, "Oh my gosh." Well, from there, we do get the tree in, and we had vaulted ceilings, and it just hit the top. But funny enough, it still was higher than the ladder was going to go. So Sam's like, "No problem. Teresa, go get me that light bulb changer thing, and I'll hang your ornaments from the top of the ladder." How'd that go?
Not great.
On the third crash that I heard of the irreplaceable discount travel ornaments, Mom said, "Girls, we're going to Kmart." And we didn't buy anything at Kmart.
We didn't. We walked around for 3 hours.
3 hours.
But I think that was TT's way of
not leaving Sam. Yeah.
Because at this point the tree was shaved, and it was the top of it, because when it was too tall, he just chopped it. So it was flat at the top. It was shaved on the sides. And then at the point where he was breaking the heirloom Christmas ornaments, which are TT's pride and joy, it was time to turn off the Mannheim steamroller and head to Kmart. And walk it off. So good Christmas memories. We'll close with one other of our favorite Christmas memories that doesn't just get one Christmas, and many of you in this room probably are familiar with this, but when we were younger, Sam used to tell us every Christmas if we would go out and sell these Christmas ads for the newspaper, that we would make millions. I mean, we would just have more money than we knew what to do with. And I mean, starting at about 8.
Yeah.
He would get us hyped up and tell us all about our sales training from an early age. And we would go out and he would tell people, my daughter here, sweet Kaylin, she's just trying to make a little extra money, so we're going to sell these Christmas ads for the newspaper. And would you believe that to this day we've never seen a cent of that Christmas ad money? We're holding out. Someday, we're gonna get a big old fat check in the mail for.
One day.
Yeah, we've been told that the proceeds from this evening, if we went along with this, part of them would go to our children's college fund. So thank you, each and every one of you for the children.
Yes, for the children, indeed,
Yes.
indeed. Kind of like Charles said, we were told we had an 8 to 10 minute time limit, but we could have made a whole evening of it. But truly, we couldn't have asked for anyone better to help raise us and teach us all of those life lessons than Sam Hatcher. Charles is right. We asked her, are we supposed to say something nice at the end? We
But
weren't
then
sure.
he gets the last word.
Yeah,
So we've
so we're gonna
decided that
just-
we're gonna hold
Yeah.
the nice comments until we see what he's got up his sleeve, because, we did not sign up to get roasted.
We did not. We actually don't like making people feel uncomfortable. So,
Not our favorite.
not our favorite. But anyway, thank you.
Thanks for bearing with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kara and Kaylee. Okay. And now the rest of the story. John S. Hatcher Jr. His best asset is his wife of 31 years, Teresa. She's here this evening by protest, but she's here. Let's give her another round of applause for being such a good sport and hanging in there with Sam for all these years, Christmas trees, Publix, and all. I do have the honor to introduce our local celebrity this evening, a good friend of mine, longtime friend. We've had a lot of good times together, Sam. I want you to remember those good times and all the fun that we've had during your rebuttal, okay? Sam Hatcher, a former newspaper journalist and the author of 2 books. He's a lifelong resident of Wilson County. About 10 years ago, he initiated his consulting company, First Light Communications, focusing on relationships with local and state government, the media, and other areas of interest. Sam wrote this for me. Sam currently serves as chairman of the Cumberland University Board of Trust. He is treasurer of the Nashville and Eastern Railroad Authority and serves as our local and served on boards of Cumberland Region Tomorrow, Equal Chance for Education, Alive Hospice, the Community Foundation of Wilson County, and Vanderbilt Wilson County Hospital. He is a past president and former board member of the Tennessee Press Association. Hatcher was a founding partner in the Five Oaks Golf and Country Club and is currently chief manager of the Farm LLC, the entity that owned and developed Five Oaks. For more than 35 years, he served in the Army National Guard, retiring at full rank of full colonel. His service included deployments and assignments in the U.S., as well as in Egypt, Europe, the Middle East, South America, and Central America. For his final assignment, a 10-year stint, he chaired the Joint National Guard Communications Committee at the Pentagon. Sam has taken military discounts to a whole new level. His work, Heisman's First Trophy, the story about the football game played between Cumberland and Georgia Tech, in which Tech defeated the Bulldogs by a score of 222-0, has been featured in Metro dailies and community newspapers nationwide, by the late Frank DeFord on National Public Radio, and by other broadcast media, including ESPN, CBS, and a number of local television and radio stations and podcasts. Sam has a booth, a kiosk open in the back, that he's selling these books for $25. All proceeds benefit the Hatcher Foundation. You've met his daughters, Kaylin and Kara. We've introduced Teresa. I give you Sam Hatcher, better known as Daddy Sam.
Hallelujah! I finally got my chance. I want to thank the Lebanon Kiwanis, Chelsea, Ryan, Melinda. This is such a great opportunity to stand here and get humiliated in front of 300 people. I don't know where to start. I do want to recognize a couple of people. I want to recognize Don Stansberry, who is sitting here at table number 5, I believe. Don came here all the way from Scott County to see me blistered and roasted, and I appreciate that. And I also want to recognize a familiar face that you all haven't seen perhaps in a while, Van Hillary. Van is a former U.S. Congressman, and he is now the Chief of Staff for 6th District Congressman John Rose. Van, thank you for being here. And I want to say a special thanks to Congressman Rose. He couldn't be here tonight, had a conflict, but he is a sponsor of the event, and what? Conflict. A conflict, yeah. He did have a conflict. Yeah, I don't think it's one of my conflicts. I think it's one of his conflicts. Yeah, a real conflict. But I do want to thank him for participating and being a sponsor tonight. You know, it's odd. I got thinking about that. These, so far, everybody I've introduced or mentioned has an R in front of them. So Bone, going back to the chameleon thing, I can sort of go either way. I will tell you that, and I've got good friends that are on both sides now. Before I start, and I'll be really brief, I want to apologize to my mother-in-law, Carolyn Dudley, who's here tonight, because she's heard all these untruths. She's heard a lot of exaggerations, and that's just the way these people are, Carolyn. I can't help it. That's just the way they are. I'm looking at my notes here. I've gotten sort of tangled up here a little bit, but I want to say that, man, before I actually go into the rebuttal, I just want to say that I know that we got to be brief because we're already an hour past Charles Bone's bedtime, and Paul Stum has a haircut appointment at 7:30 in the morning. Oh, wait a minute, maybe I've got that reversed. I don't believe he could have a haircut appointment, come to think about it. I'm sorry, I've got that turned around. I didn't mean to say it that way. There are a lot of valuable lessons that I've learned from both of these people, and I want to tell you real quickly about two. Charles Bone, number one, a good friend. I had the opportunity several years ago to speak to a civic club over in Gallatin. And I'm sitting at a head table similar to this, and you know, I don't know this man is president of the civic club. He's from Gallatin, lived there all his life, and I didn't know him. And y'all have been in that same position where you stumble around and you're trying to look for something to say to this guy next to you. And finally I said, I know somebody over here that's from Gallatin that practices law in Hendersonville and actually in Nashville. He's got a law practice in Nashville, downtown Nashville. So the president of the club looked up back at me and he said, now who would that be? And I said, Charles Bone. And he said, that liberal SOB, I hope you don't like him. I said, can't stand the man, as a matter of fact. I don't want anything to do with him. Cannot stand the man. And in a summer, there was a lesson there. And the lesson in that is, your friends can't always be like others want them to be. You need to remember that about your friends. And then there's a story about Paul Stum I want to share quickly. And WP, this involves you. And I want to say to you, WP, I get so embarrassed lots of times with Paul. WP and Wilson County Motors, they're kind enough to provide Cumberland University's president with a car to drive. Pretty nice. Got a big dealer's tag on the back of it. It says Wilson County Motors, great big dealer's tag. So we'll go with Paul and Christy lots of times, and Christy she'll say this is the truth. He'll come up to traffic, and he's one of these guys that goes right down the road and waits till the last minute and then cuts in between somebody. Y'all seen those kind of people on the road. And you know, these people get infuriated with him, and they'll flip him a finger. And I'll say, Paul, that person just flipped you a finger. He says, I don't care. They think I'm WP Bone. They see that dealer's tag on the back of the car. Who cares what they think? And finally, I want to say something about my two girls. I really appreciate them being here and taking this on tonight. And they were pretty gentle. They could have been harder on me, but you know what's amazing to me about them? What'd you say? They both have college degrees, college education. They have very responsible jobs. They're professionals in every way. They're outstanding young ladies. They work for nonprofits locally, participate in nonprofits. They're active in the church. They do so much for the community, and I'm so proud of them. But you know what bothers me is they've gone this far in life, and they haven't figured out that same light switch that you flip up to turn the lights on, when you pull it back down, it turns the lights off. And they have not figured that out to this point. I'm going to close and say again, thank you for being here. I appreciate it personally. My family appreciates you being here. Kaylin's husband could not be here. She's got 2 really sick young kids at home, and Caleb Dennis had to stay with them. Ryan is here. Appreciate Ryan Sprouse being here, and other members of our family. I want to leave you all with something I've found today, and it's really ironic. I looked for that song, That's What Friends Are For, and as I looked for that, Diana Ross, as you all know, sung that. And ironically, today is Diana Ross's 80th birthday. She's 80 years old today. But there's a part in that song that says, keep smiling, and I've sort of paraphrased part of this to include my daughters. Keep smiling, keep shining. Know you'll always count on them. That's what friends are for the good times, for the bad times. They'll be on you forevermore. That's what friends are for. And you know, I think tonight we can all say that about good friends, and I think life is so much better when you have good friends to surround you. And I count all of you part of that audience. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for those encouraging words right there at the end. Thank you for attending tonight. Thanks to Middle Tennessee Electric again for sponsoring the event. Chris, thanks so much. This is what community is all about. It's coming together with friends to share with the friends, to poke fun at friends that we love, and it all goes for a good cause. So those watercolors you see on your table, we've got them priced at $75. Cut a check for those. Hatcher says they retail for $325. So at $75, that's a deal. That's what Nicole Bell said. Nicole had them at her shop for $325. So there you go. We know what we got in them. Thank you again for coming. I'm just kidding about the book. They're not available here, but he has some in the trunk of his Porsche, and he will autograph them, and they're $29.95. Good night. God bless. Say hello to your friends. Love somebody. Hug somebody. Good night.